Yes, if it's part of a cohesive content strategy,
which
we
at
discussed.
This stage, it is getting there, but this is the very first piece of
Right.
that cohesive content strategy.
And we did discuss that for everyone listening, the fact that Trudy really needs to create some pillars of content. So 4 or 5 subjects that are very, very important to her people. And then she'll regularly post content that deals with one of those pillars. And then everything can be linked together and woven. And it creates this massive catalog or library of resources where you've done this, Trudy, right? You've gone to someone's website that's amazing and you just sit there and read articles for hours. And then you're like, what rabbit hole did I fall down? So that's what you want to create, is that warren of articles that people just get lost in. But yes, I say for what you have now, do apples to apples. So find a blog post in the past that's done fairly well. Remember how you promoted it, because you don't want to give it an unfair advantage by not promoting this one enough. And then keep track of the metrics on that. So I think you could probably pretty easily do a 30-day reading and then do it once a quarter after that. But by the end of a year, you'll see that people are coming to it pretty regularly if it's linked to the other appropriate content.
Yeah. Okay. And then the other thing is that obviously I want to use this particular podcast episode to actually create a blog post that talks about this as a case study. Now, my question is once it's up there and as a case study, as a blog post sitting there on my website, what's the best way for updating people? Do you just add a bit to that blog post? Do you create another blog post? What's the best way of doing that?
You could probably add a line at the bottom. This blog post is part of a case study based experiment. Read more about that and get the results here. And then have a whole separate, see, you just took them to another place, have a whole separate article there, and then outline what's happening in this podcast. This is the experiment. This is what we're doing. And then keep the metrics updated in that post. So just have a whole results section.
Right. That makes sense. So that's definitely worth doing a bit of work on. So I think I'm thinking out loud again, in terms of the effort involved, it's more about actually putting together a plan and saying, do this, because we're starting to create the basis for this whole strategy. So there might be a little bit more work involved in this particular one than there might be in the next one and the next one. Or maybe not. Maybe the next one and the next one might be more work because there's more things to refer back to. I don't know.
No, it's really not. When you develop your content strategy, you'll actually have a pattern of links that you'll be able to build in. I create a database or an Excel document, and it's part of your editorial calendar. Sorry, I lost my word there. It's part of your editorial calendar. So if you know that in the month of, what month are we even in? April?
Mm-hmm.
So in the month of May, say, you're going to talk about the pillar of quizzes. We'll just stick with quizzes. So every piece of content you put out in the month of May will either be about quizzes, about a current podcast episode going out, or about something that is happening in your business. So you focus only on a few things. And then within that month, you'll actually, in the editorial calendar, have lists of links. And so you'll be able to look at that and it will say, link back to article such and such, or let them know another article is coming. And then you go back in at the next one and put the links in and just do it. It sounds like a lot more work than it is, honestly. Once you set up that strategy and you set up your editorial calendar, you develop a system for posting your content and reusing it. And then after that, it just kind of happens. The writing is the biggest part at that point.
Yeah, that's interesting because I do have a content strategy for everything else except for the blog posts. So that'd be kind of interesting. And do you, I mean, I'm sure there is value, but how much value in integrating that blog post with the other kinds of content on other platforms?
No, you accidentally, you really, really do want that. You want link backs when you can get them. So you want other websites to link to you.
No, I was thinking, I was thinking more along the lines of the LinkedIn newsletter and the video snippet that might go up on YouTube, those sorts of things? How does that all kind of connect together?
Yeah, you want to refer everyone to this article. So instead of, if you do a snippet on YouTube of this podcast, you would want to refer back to this blog post. And then within that blog post, it sends them to all of the other places. So the other podcast that was the big piece, and it'll send them to Leads Hook, and it will send them to the other episodes that are surrounding this topic, the segmentation and all of that stuff. So you definitely want to do that, but it's really a good idea to always, when you're linking from your outside places, send them to one of the articles that's kind of a roadmap. So a good idea in your content strategy is to every once in a while have an article or a page that is just constantly updated that just links to different things. So if you're interested in learning more about quizzes, these are all the links you want to go to. If you want to learn about starting your business, these are the articles you're going to want to read. So that's where the pillar page comes in handy. So it becomes your roadmap. You can refer everything back to that, and you can set up those little bookmarks on the page, which I really suck at, where it'll take them directly to that section or even that article. And then at the end of every one of your pages after that, as you create them, you'll have the little footer. If you like this article, here are some others you might be interested in. And that pillar page should always be at the top of that. So it should take them back to that. And then there are other individual articles that are also on the pillar page. So eventually you get a whole bunch of links on your website, but it just keeps them going because they never have to look for information. You've handed it to them on a platter.